Hello, the purpose of this demonstration is to show the API for the Foglight Experience Viewer product for the purpose of interfacing it with other applications. So primarily we see this use case if people are using survey products and they want to open a survey and then from the survey drill down to the user session that submitted the survey, or with customer support products. So if somebody has a customer support case and they're able to identify the session, they may want to go right to the replay. So what I'm going to do first, just to set some ground rules here, is I'm going to go ahead and show Foglight Experience Viewer from the interface that's directly on the appliance. So here we're not going through Foglight, we're going right to the appliance that the Foglight Experience Viewer is running on. So when you interface directly with Foglight Experience Viewer, you have general search capabilities for sessions. So I'm able to search for transactions that happen within sessions. I'm able to search for specific hits within sessions, or I'm able to search on sessions themselves. Now each of these three things has their own set of attributes. So if I go to sessions, for example, and I look at some of the custom fields, some of the attributes of these sessions would be the browser type. It maybe has a client IP, it has the login, it has an order value. So these are custom fields that were put on after the configuration of the product. Now what you can also do is you can look for sessions that updated certain metrics. So these are metrics, add to cart. So this means that somebody added at least one item to add to cart. And that's what the search capability is. Now, a more direct interface to search, or something that you would do from one of our products, or from an external product rather, is you would search on session identifier. So this session identifier is usually going to be a cookie. So if you're running a Java application, it would be JSessionID, or usually a .NET application is going to be ASP Session ID or .NET ASP Session ID. So we basically use cookies to create our sessions, just like your web server does. Now what I can do is I'm just going to do a general search here, and in that general search it's going to pull up all the sessions that happened over the last 15 minutes. Now what I can do is I can view any one of these sessions, and this is just a typical search that we have, so I can go in and click on this user right here, and it would show me that user's session. And in this one, as in any replay, I can click page by page to see what the user did, where the user clicked, and basically the response that they got back from the web server, what they saw in their browser. Now that I'm in the context of this general user, this one user, I have this user's session identifier. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to build a URL around this user's session identifier so that we can go right into this user session without coming in through the interface. And basically that's what you would do with the product. So if you had a survey product, you would have to build this URL by yourself. So let's start by looking at the API. I cut out pieces of the documentation just to show you the API. So we have the session ID that we're after. And then the first thing you'll see here, this is the session ID that we have. What we also need is we need the server IP address, and we have that right here. So this is, I'm building this manually, but you would need to do this programmatically in order for it to work with an interface that you want. So I'm going to cut out this piece, and let's go back and build that into our beginning of our URL here. Okay, so you'll see right now I have up to here built. Now the next piece I need is this show sequence.do and the session identifier, and I'm going to paste that in right between the beginning of our pages and the session ID. So I'm going to put that right here. And then after this, it's asking, we're going to use this bottom one here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a little twist to this. So I'm going to come in from my mark here where I'm doing the timestamp. And what this is saying is timestamp MS, which is timestamp in milliseconds. And what it's looking for here is a Unix timestamp that you'd have to do a conversion on with a JavaScript. But what we're going to do is I'm going to show you how we just could add an XX here. And what this tells it in the API is that we just want to look for this session ID and find the first instance of it. So typically you're not going to have a session ID that repeats over and over again because these are pretty unique. Okay, so if we did everything right in this URL, this should drill me down right to that session. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to copy this, and I'm going to come up to our browser and paste that in our browser. Okay, and what this will do is this will bring us into the Session Explorer right to that session that we were looking at before without going through the interface or anything like that. Now let's keep in mind this user already had a state because I was already logged in on this first tab in this browser. So let me bring up another browser and show you what would actually happen. I'm going to go with a clear stack in Internet Explorer, and I'm going to paste that same URL in an Internet Explorer. So if we go here, it doesn't log us in right to the session. It brings us to the login page. Now for most products, when you come in with these users, you're going to want to maintain your security levels because you don't want any user logging in or having a direct login to your replay because you're compromising user security. So every user should have their own login password combination, whether they're in customer support or they're using the survey product, and then they could log in directly, and that would bring them directly to that session. Okay. So there is one step in between instead of going directly to that session replay like we had here before. So that concludes our presentation on the API for the URL in those external products. And you can contact your sales representative or your system consultant for additional information. Thank you for attending.